Ladies and gentlemen, if we can please begin to find seats, we're going to begin services. I'm going to ask, ladies and gentlemen, also that you please turn off or silence all cell phones. But I've been, not turn off, but silence all cell phones. I've been asked that you keep the cell phones out. Just please silence them. Something will take place as part of the service. So please leave your cell phones on, please silence them, and please leave them out. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly to not turn your cell phones off and leave them on, but please silence them again. Thank you.
We begin our service this morning in loving memory of someone that we all loved, whoever knew him, loved him, great father, grandfather, uncle, and friend, Paul, Pesach Shimon ben Yeshaya HaKohen. We'll begin with Psalm 23. I'd like to call up our cantor, Cantor Jacques Dahan.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר, בהינו דשא ירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינעלני. נפשי ישובב, ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי ילך בגץ על מוות, לא יירא כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, דישנת ושמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
Thank you, Chazan. For those who know, I would like to read along. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of the death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me in all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalm 121, Shir Amalis Esaene Eleharim, Me ayin yavi ezri me imadinoi oisi shemayim v'aretz. Al yitin amaytka glach al yanam shemracha hinne lo yinum v'lo yishan shem Yisrael. Adnoi shemracha adnoi tzilch al yadi v'menacha yemam shem shlo yikeka v'reich b'leila. Adnoi yishmarcha mechal ra yishman sanfshecha. Adnoi yishmetezcha v'yecha me'ata v'yad elam. And finally, Psalm 91, Yoshe b'seisa elim b'seis shadi yitzlanan. Amal adinoi machsim sedas el heftig boy. Kuya tilchem a pachiakus me dever avreis bevrasi yasalach v'sachs knaf techse. Zinne v'sachera mitte leisirim a pachloila mechetzi av yemel. Me dever bevel yalach, me ketef yashis sarayim. Yipel me tzitcha elav of avavim menecha. Elecha la yigershak benecha sabit vishalum zishaim tire kiatadine machsi elion samtim menecha. Leise una lechera v'negar la yigver b'elecha kimalach vitzavalach ishmarcha b'chol derechecha. Al kapayim is an uncha pentigger be'evan aglacha al shachem v'fes and tidder timis kvivisanen kvi chashva v'deos akveik yodishmi yikre einu v'eneu ima yonech v'tzarach al tzeva chabdeu oidech yamas be'eu v'areu b'shuasi oidech yamas be'eu v'areu b'shuasi. We have a tradition at a funeral. We turn to the deceased and we ask Mechila, we ask for forgiveness. Paul, if there's anything that in our lives we have treated, acted with disrespect, we ask you for forgiveness. But all of us who know Paul would know that if he heard me ask that, he would dismiss me and say, what are you talking about? You've always done excellent. I don't eulogize, but I must say something about Paul. It's impossible for me to talk to him about him in past tense. It's just 2 weeks ago he was in shul, acting, behaving the typical loving Paul. I said, Paul, we were scheduled to go to Israel together in March. And I said, Paul, did you go through the options of what you can go for every day? There's different options to pick. And Paul said, it doesn't matter what I do. It matters that I'm there in Israel with them. That's what kind of person he was. He was going to Israel not to tour and not to eat the ice cream and the falafel. I'm sure he liked those too. But it was about being there for us, for our family, for Am Yisrael in a time of need. And that was all that was important for him. He was, as you are, a kohen, a priest amongst the Jewish people. And the Talmud tells us what is the criteria of being a kohen, something that's passed from Aaron, the high priest, all the way down to his children. And the Talmud tells us that to be a kohen, you have to be an isha chesed, a man of kindness. And I think he was a walking billboard of a kohen. We had once a month a men's club meeting for lunch at Cherry Grill. And Paul would come whenever he was in town. And I can tell you that almost every time that I was there and he was there, he would bend over and say, Mendy, order what you want. I'm taking care of it. He knew me. That wasn't going to be a small order. But what made him special was, very often he would say, is there anybody else you think I should cover? Without them knowing. He was truly an ish hachesed, a kind, loving person. When he walked into shul, the smile that he showed and bestowed upon everybody was almost contagious. People just loved being around him. And the respect that he showed for everybody was just fantastic. You know, Brian, we were talking the other day. Your father was very tall. You said you're taller than him. But I believe that it wasn't just his physical stature. It was his personality. He was just a huge acting person of goodness. When I got the call Sunday night that his soul was taken from us, it's just so shocking for me. And I was thinking, how unfair that the holiday of Hanukkah, the first night of Hanukkah, for the family will always be remembered now, not a night of celebration, but of death and pain. Then I thought, I think that God really captured the essence of Paul. What's the first night of Hanukkah? The world is dark, the world is in pain, and we light a little light, and that dispels so much darkness. For those who knew Paul, when he walked into a room and he saw people were hurting, people weren't happy, and he had just this magnificent way of dispelling darkness, inspiring them with love and with kindness. May his soul be bound in the bound of life. May his memory be a source of happiness and joy. You are lucky to have him as a father. We were lucky to have him as a friend. And every rabbi in the world would say having Paul as a member makes your life very, very easy. Paul, I'm going to miss you. I'd like to call up the family to eulogize Paul.
I'm first? Thank you. Yes. Thank you. He loved you. I first want to thank everyone for coming. The last week has been one of the most difficult weeks of my life. Watching my dad in the hospital after suffering the stroke and trying to support him was hard, but the outpouring of love and support from all of our friends and family will be truly unforgettable. I listened to people tell him final messages while he was dying. I listened to the rabbi give his prayers. I listened to us all do prayers all around him. This wasn't really part of my speech, but when the rabbi was talking about it, I just figured that I'd share. My father loved our family more than anything, except for Chabad, which held an equal love in his life. As a child, I always remember him working so hard to support us. He went to all of my brothers and my sporting events. He cried through all of my dance recitals, and there were a lot of them. As a child, I thought he loved my brothers more than me. As I grew up, I just realized he didn't know how to relate to girls. I don't think he ever really found out. Once I gave up my childhood animosity, I was really able to enjoy my father. I listened to all his stories and adventures. We went out to dinner. We spent a lot of time together. It was really nice. Once you formed a bond with my dad, you were family. Even though my parents divorced, our family did not change and became even stronger. When I got sick and had to have open heart surgery, my parents cooked a last-minute Thanksgiving dinner together, and the pics made my sore heart stronger. Thanks also to Steve for always being kind to him and allowing him to share holidays with us. I know it meant the world to him that you take such great care of my mom. Family was always his greatest gift. He has pictures of all his family plastered all over his apartment. It made him so happy to hang them up and show everyone when they came to visit. Even the pregnancy birth wall that has the most flattering pictures of us all. Ethan's bar mitzvah was truly the best time of his life. He was the happiest ever, and I'll forever be blessed to share that with him. I love you, Dad. I'll miss you forever, and I'm grateful that you are my dad.
Hi, everyone. I'm Steve, Paul's youngest son. Thank you all for being here. Your support means everything to me, my family, and especially my dad. Thank you also, Rabbi, for your kind words. He held you in such high regard, and he appreciated anything and everything that you gave him as far as community and involvement. And it was literally one of the sparks of his life, so thank you. There really is no way to sum up the complexities of my dad in a short eulogy, so I'm not going to try. Instead, I'm just going to tell you about what I found in his apartment while we've been cleaning it out these past few days. For context, my dad lived alone in a one-bedroom apartment. Don't worry, this is not going to go where you think it's going to go. There are three categories of things that I found that I'd like to share. Number one, connectors. My dad had every connector for every electronic device you can imagine. He had a charger for every version of iPhone, iPad, computer. He had extension cords so that he could charge said devices on the couch, the bed, and even the bathroom. He even had a charger for his charger, and he had an extension cord for that. My dad was similarly a connector between people, between interests, between ideas. He would talk to somebody and ultimately find some common ground, some similar knowledge. Undoubtedly, this would result in him bragging about Brian. He never played soccer, but Brian did. He connected with Brian's favorite sport and ultimately became his biggest supporter. He went to every single one of Deborah's dance recitals and cried. And we know how agile my dad was. If he didn't connect inherently, he would try his best to find a way to connect to you or something you were interested in. If you liked it, he would try to like it. Don't even get him started on Michigan football. Number 2, pens. My dad had a huge 3-level drawer system to accommodate pens. In an age where nobody writes and kids don't even know what cursive is, my dad had a holder for pens. He had fancy pens, cheap pens, lead pencils, and 10 versions of the same pen with his name on it. If he liked something, he had to have at least 10 of it. My dad actually wrote letters with his pens. He was a very sentimental writer. My mom just showed me her high school yearbook, where he wrote her a full-page note in cursive nonetheless. Personally, I can't think of an important occasion in my life where my dad didn't write me a letter. On the morning of my bar mitzvah, he wrote me a letter. On the day I graduated high school, he wrote me a letter. Similarly, when I graduated college. Yeah, I had a few graduations, so I got a few letters. You get the point. And no, Scott, it's not a competition. But I definitely won. Obviously, technology progressed, and he would text and ultimately talk on the phone. Still, his sentiments were quite similar to those initial letters. He would always find a way to share how proud he was. He could easily get you to tear up in some way, in a good way. Somehow hearing that in a written letter, though, makes it sound and feel that much better. This is one of the reasons I personally feel compelled to speak today. I never wrote him a letter myself, and maybe this is my version. Number 3, pictures. This will be repetitive. Anyone who has met my dad has heard him talk about his family. If you talk to him more than a few minutes, he's probably shown you pictures of his grandkids. He's told you how much digital storage he even has, and that is occupied mostly by pictures. His apartment reflects this. Whereas some people would have their walls covered by art, his are covered by pictures of his family, all framed. Everyone is represented. His mother, brother, sister, children, daughters-in-law, sons, well, no, not yet, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, great-nieces, great-nephews, exes. You get the point. If you met my dad, you might even be in a picture on his wall. My dad always shared that he loved these pictures of his family as he felt such love and pride for everyone. His family was the most important thing to him. When all of his kids were together, he was truly in heaven. He didn't even have to be doing anything. Just being with his family was special. Most recently, we were all together out in Los Angeles a few weeks ago for my nephew Ethan's bar mitzvah, and he got to have all of his children as well as almost all of his grandchildren together. He was probably the happiest I've seen him the entire time. Because his family made him so happy, it's no wonder he loved to reflect on the pictures on his wall. I'm sure most of you have heard him say at one time or another that the family pictures on his bedroom wall were the last thing he saw before he went to sleep and the first thing he saw when he woke up. Fast forward to the last night of his life, while he was lying in a hospital bed, he didn't have his pictures on the wall to look at and comfort him. Instead, he had his family with him, standing around his bed. Although he couldn't see it, his ex-wife, niece, brother, sister, and children were there in person while he went to sleep for the last time. So when you leave here and think about what this has to do with your life, I'll encourage you to fill your life with similar items that my dad had as an apartment. Find connection with people, with interests, with ideas. Learn new things. Get to know people. Communicate with others. Write them letters. Tell them how proud you are. Tell them you love them. Surround yourself with family and friends and loved ones. Make sure they know how much they're loved. Tell them before they go to sleep and when they wake up, because you never quite know when you won't be able to. Love you, Dad. I'm proud of you.
for the record, he wrote me a letter the night I was born. He gave it to me in my bar mitzvah. I think I have it somewhere. You're going to stand right here and be my prop if you're not going to talk. So, happy Hanukkah, and thank you all for joining us and helping us remember Paul, Dad, Pop-Up, or your good friend. So before we begin, I'd like to ask each of you to pull out your phone. Turn to your neighbor. Go to your pictures, please. Take the picture out of your family. Show it to your neighbor. And preferably, if you don't know your neighbor, that's preferred. And please tell them about the picture, people in the picture. Tell them where they go to school. Tell them how old they are. Tell them where they work. And then after you've done that, turn to the other side and please do it again. Trying to look for one. There's one. Now please show the next picture too. All right. Well, now I'd like to thank each of you for doing my dad's favorite thing in the world. So we recently had a bar mitzvah for Ethan, as Deborah and Steve mentioned. And one of my best memories of my dad the entire weekend was sitting in the front row of the synagogue, talking to an absolute stranger about his family and how proud he was of his grandson. That would be a fairly normal thing for any of us to do, except it was in the middle of Ethan's Divar Torah. Of course, we all tried to tell him to stop talking, but there was no stopping Paul once you had him talking about his family, his friends, Judaism, Israel, the Philadelphia Eagles, Michigan football, or Rabbi Mengel. So over the past week, as we've done all our soul searching, we've been able to share many stories about my dad. There's some really good ones, especially from my Uncle Bob and Aunt Faye of when he was a child. I think they'll be happy to share later in the day. But this one stuck with me since it wrapped together so many important elements of my dad's life, the values he lived by, and the messages he would want to tell us if he was sitting here today. So first thing, he was in a synagogue. Paul loved being in synagogues. His second home was being in Chabad in Cherry Hill. He grew up attending Temple Beth Shalom. He joined Sons of Israel when he married my mother. And then years later, he went to Shul at Chabad in Cherry Hill, where he truly felt at home. Some people have country clubs. My father had Chabad. And he was grateful for every minute he spent there. He inspired many of us with Rabbi Mangel's teachings. And furthermore, he always felt so lucky to go to Israel with some of you here, with the group from Chabad. And he was honored to be part of the community and see his cousin Harold and their family. But Paul's connection and belief in Judaism was resolute. But his real joy and motivation was his connection to a community that gave so much back to him in return. He was fascinated by being involved in a community that he could connect with, and that so many people had a common background, and they would receive so much joy in return. The second thing that struck me about this incident was that he was talking to a complete stranger. Thinking back, the way these two were smiling at each other, you would have thought these two men knew each other for years, except that he met him for 20 minutes before. My father loved meeting new people. Making a connection to someone new was one of the joys of his life, even if it was during his grandson's Divar Torah. But Paul's real gift is that when he met someone new or he reconnected with an old friend, my dad made that person feel that they were the greatest version of themselves. He accepted you on the spot. It did not matter your age, economic status, religion, gender. Paul wanted to meet you so he can learn about you and your life. And then, of course, he would tell you about his son Steve, the doctor, or his grandson Tyler, who was an avid fisherman, or his nephew Charlie, who was a wrestler, or he would tell you Scarlett's story about a tornado. Paul was a living, breathing example of a connection and acceptance. Perhaps he developed such a skill through some of the many challenges he faced in his own life, but it's truly a message which we could all benefit. Third, in my story, he was talking about his family. Paul did not miss bar mitzvahs. He did not miss weddings. He did not miss funerals, and he did not miss a family party. He was always there with his phone out, showing pictures. Paul constantly expressed his wealth, not in dollars, but in the success of his children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. Thank goodness for Paul, because the family would never have been able to track Samson's art, Ruthie's dancing, or Evelyn's school applications. Thanks to him, I know about Melissa's success, leading a band, Craig having another baby. I'm not sure how many we're up to at this point, but Neil working with the Maccabee organization, which he truly thought was the greatest thing ever. Eric's medical practice, Shara's twins, and Jill's bat mitzvah. He loved nothing more than sitting at Ethan and Jackson's soccer game, perhaps looking at his phone a bit too much, or sitting and making Lacey laugh. Paul lived in a world where Scott being a great dad, Deborah getting promoted, or Steve being named on a best doctors list were his greatest achievements. For Paul, his family also did not stop with his own blood relatives. His ex-mother-in-laws were his mothers. His ex-in-laws are his brothers and sisters. And his stepchildren and grandchildren are his children and grandchildren. There's no greater gift to honor Paul's memory than to have all of his family and friends together in one place. And he would want all of you to know that he'll watch over you, love you, and he will show everyone your picture in heaven. Lastly, back to my story at the bar mitzvah, the greatest vision I have is he was just so happy and smiling. My father had many ups and downs in his life, but he always lived with the fundamental idea that something good was going to happen tomorrow. He always saw the future as a celebration, and his dreams, even if not realized, had all of us in the best version of ourselves. Paul Slotkin believed in you. He saw the best version of you, even if he was meeting you for the very first time. I know we're all saddened by his loss, and we should all mourn his passing. But if Paul wanted to tell us anything, it would be to celebrate life. Look for the goodness in all. And next time someone walks up to you and shows you a picture of their family on their phone, please reciprocate. May his passing be a blessing to all of us. Thank you.
That was incredible, really special. We sent out a notice to the Shul family that Paul passed away. I don't recall in my 32 years being here in the community receiving that many responses from the congregants, how pained they are about his loss, about the shock, and the amount of people that said, "So Mendy, where's the miracles of the holiday, that his life was taken away?" I wish I had the answer, but he certainly lived a beautiful, full, and accomplished life. Last year, I'm just echoing one of the points that you made. Last year when we were working on our trip to Israel, there were two fellows from Philadelphia that I had no idea who they were, who reached out and they wanted to know if they can join our trip. And to be honest, I wasn't sure that I wanted them. I didn't know who they are, and we had a nice group. And I mentioned it at a group meeting that there's these two people that signed on that they want to come. And Paul said, Mendy, you don't have to worry about it. I'll take care of them. And I didn't know exactly what that meant, because in Brooklyn that means something else. But they came on the trip, and I can tell you that the comments that I got from them after the trip of how well he took care of them, they were like two little brothers to him, and they were his age, but they were never in Israel, and his attitude was, if somebody wants to go to Israel, we're taking them. And whenever there was free time, he made sure to be with them. You were very lucky to have a very special Isha Chesed, just a kind, benevolent, loving person. Psalm 16, Michtam LeDavid Shemereni El Kechsisibach. Amart Adonai Adonai Ata Tevasi Balalecha L'Kdeshma Shebaretz Hema V'Adiri Kol Chavsivam. Yiru Atzvei Tzamach Rimaro Balasach Niskein Bedam U'Valesa Shmois Maltzafasei. Abin Adonai Menas Chalki V'Chaysi Ata Tamach Gerali Chavalam Nafli Ben Im Mav Nachal Shafer Alai. Avarachas Adonai Asher Yotzani Afleil Sisuni Chali Yosei Shivisi Adonai Lenegdi Samid Kimi Mini Balemet L'Chayin Samach Libi V'Yakul Kvedi Afisar Yishkin Levetach. Kaloi Sazav Nafshel Shelo Sitten Chastechal L'Reis Shachas. To the Eni Ode Chaim Seva Samachtes Benacha Ni'imus B'Mincha Netzach. I'll ask you all to please rise as our Chazan will lead us on the Keil Mali prayer.
El Male Rachamim Shochen B'Meromim Amotze Menucha Nechona Al Kanofei HaShechina במעלות הקדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, את נשמת פסח שמעון בן ישעיה הכהן, שלהו לעולמו. בעבור שנדב צדקה בעתה זכרת נשמתו, בגן עדן תמנוחתו. לכן בר הרחמים יסירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח על משכבו בשלום, ונאמר Amen.
O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Pesach Shimon ben Yishaya Cohen, Paul Slotkin, who has gone to his eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that he has performed in this land, the land of the living. May his soul be bound in the bond of life. The Lord is our portion. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. We may be seated.
Rise once more, please.
Yoshe b'seis Eli b'seis Adi Yisrael and Amon Dei Mamzin Tzadati Elahai After Yehui atilchem apatiyakis kedeva avreis gebrasi yasalach v'sachas kenafas hefet asinim v'sachirem etel. Leisirim apatleel mechiser v'yemen v'dem v'yalach v'kem yakis tzarayim. Yipel mitzisrael v'vavim v'necha lecha lo yiga shak v'necha tabit v'shifus v'shem shireh. Yiyach alidein mamti elin tamshem v'necha. Leisuna lechada v'necha le'yim v'lecha. Gimalach v'kavalach v'shmarch v'kol derakat al t'payim t'ruf v'kendig v'em lecha. Al shachim v'zitzir shimus v'mitzvah
You may be seated, please. I'll ask you to kind of remain seated for you just for a moment. Folks in this row, we can begin to head to our cars, please. Folks in this row. Folks in these two rows, please.